Today I received a curious WhatsApp from my scribe, and I didn't know why. It was a Friday afternoon. He sent me a message at home. He wanted to talk to me, not at the office, and I really couldn't figure out why. And the reason he was calling is he was concerned because in his company, AI seemed to be taking the place of all the scribes. Hello, my name is Don Pelto. This is Podiatry Practice Mastery. We're helping you bring your practice to the $1 million mark and beyond. Today I'm going to start out talking about the fears of my scribe and why I reassured him that I'm going to keep him in my practice helping me. For those that don't have a scribe, I was kind of a late adopter to getting a scribe, but I think it is pretty much the most beneficial aspect of my practice that has helped me to be more present with my patients and do all the other things during the day and all the other things that I have to do in life during my work day, so I can kind of buy my time back. So I think of my scribe more so of buying my time back than I do anything else. There's a good book, I think it's by Dan Martell, that says it's called Buy Your Time Back. And it is an expensive expense. It is expensive. So if I look at my sheet, we get our expenses for the practice, it ends up being about $30,000 a year. And you might think, oh my goodness, $30,000. Well, it is pre-tax, so I actually save 30% because it comes directly out. So I save 30%. But more importantly, I want to talk a little bit about what a scribe does for me in the office. He first of all, it took me 3 months, so he's now up and running with ModMed. We recently switched from Athena to ModMed. We're 3 to 4 months in now, and he does all my notes. He does all of my prescriptions. He does all of my physical therapy orders, MRI orders, pathology orders. He does all that stuff. He sends messages to my staff to schedule surgery. He has like little templates I've given him in Google Docs where he can know the types of surgeries that I do. He also reminds me of things. So when we're in the treatment room, he'll remind me that this patient needs to do an ABI, this patient needs to do a diabetic foot exam, and he's getting to kind of almost be an extension of myself in the practice for doing things. So it makes it a lot easier. And I know the concern, what's happening in his work situation is I'm the only one that uses a scribe, I guess, in his whole building 5 days a week. So he must be working, I think he's working 40 to 50 hours with me. And the other scribes, they might be working 2 days, might be working 3 days. And he's kind of scared for his job. But I'm not sure if AI can do all of that. I know I've worked with some doctors and they use AI and they listen to the conversation and they maybe do some notes and things like that. But then I'm assuming, but I really don't know. So I'd like to know if any of you do use AI. When I do a note, I just go in, log in, and I sign the note. I don't really have to do any edits. I'm thinking with AI, you might have to edit things. You might have to edit I don't know if you can do DME prescriptions and all these other types of orders that he does for me. So I still think having a live scribe can be beneficial. Yes, it's an investment, but it's a way of buying your time back. And while I'm talking about buying time back, many docs that I talk with, they want to be more efficient, and they're not really willing to invest in themselves. And this is something that I've learned. I learned this a long time ago. I'm not exactly sure from who, but I try to buy my time back in multiple ways. In the office, other ways you can buy your time back is with technology. So I'm a big advocate of virtual assistants. So I do also have virtual assistants, for example, that answer our phones, that buys our regular staff back. I have virtual assistants that help editing my videos. So I upload my videos when I try to do one YouTube short a day. Maybe I'll stack them, do multiple in a day. And then my virtual assistant will do that. And then I use a technology called repurpose.io that sends it to all my social media. So I kind of use technology that way. And I think it would be different if I didn't have other things to do during the day. So, for example, I'm real involved in my church, and I have other types of activities I do during the day in between patients. And I think that the main difference is my other colleagues, they're just doing notes the whole time, and I'm able to do these other things. So I value that, because otherwise I'd have to do that at night or weekends. A couple of other things, I don't know if you guys have thought about this, but like once you get to a certain amount of income, I think it's better to outsource things that you don't like to do. So I outsource a lot of things in my house. For example, I have someone that cuts my lawn. I have someone that cleans my pool. I have someone that cleans my jacuzzi. I have someone that these things I didn't put in my house. They were in my house when I got it. I had a handyman. I have a handyman that came and he did about $2,500 worth of work, but just stuff I'm not very good at, like hanging up things, changing faucets, putting caulk in our kitchen. So he just got done doing a lot of these things. And I think of this like really frees me up, and I'm not too good at those things either. So I think, both my Scribe and these other things, I think they give you more time back to do what you want. And specifically in the practice, it helps me to be more present. So my typical workflow with Murali is I'll review the x-rays before with him, and then sometimes I'll review them with patients, not always. But I'll just be present with the patients, doing my treatment sheets, really being really involved. And I find that I'm able to offer more things to patients in terms of treatments because I don't have to document it. I know that sounds funny, but a lot of times it takes more time to document something that you're going to recommend than it is to actually recommend it. And I find there's no excuses for me now that he's listening. And so it's a real easy process. I just have a second phone. So I have another Samsung phone with a phone number that we call in. It's a Microsoft Teams phone number. When I was training him, I had him on the computer on Teams, and I was sharing my screen. But now we just do it over the phone. And then he just listens all day, and I have to make sure I mute him. Sometimes I forget to mute him when I go to the bathroom, but that's kind of beyond the scope of this podcast. But so that is, I wanted to just talk a little bit about how I use my Scribe and kind of how that makes things more efficient. So I would encourage you to do that if you are at a certain level where you're not having enough time in your life, you're just too busy. Take some of these things that you don't like to do. Now, I would love to have someone come in, for example, do our laundry. We already have a person that comes in and cleans every couple of weeks, but someone do the laundry for my wife, but she's not interested in that. So I can't buy her time back if she doesn't want to. And so there are other things that I'd like to do, but that's part of the benefit of like having a partner at my work or a wife here at home, because otherwise I would probably spend everything buying all my time back, and then I don't know what I would do. I try to do more of the things that I like to do, which is like these things. Okay, let's go into the day. This was a Friday that I am recording my treatments here. The first half of it, so this was a kind of a different Friday. It was a pretty successful one, but I'm going to say the pros and the cons. So this day, and I'm not bragging about this, and I don't normally see this many patients, but we saw 50 patients. Now, I'm not a person, if you look at my numbers normally, it's 20, 22, 23 patients when I'm in a normal day. Friday is my routine day, and I have been having Marjorie, so she's my nail tech. So we together, I think we probably saw 40 or 35 in the morning, and then in the afternoon I just saw my normal 10 or 12. Okay, that's how it was. But the morning was pretty busy. Thankfully, we stayed on time, but there were some drawbacks, and let me explain. So first of all, Marjorie, she forgot she has these little glasses that she used, like almost like loops, surgical loops, but they're for a nail tech. She forgot them. She had to leave, but that was no big deal. I was able to do the treatments. So I do all the treatments, and so usually it's nails and calluses for the patients, and the challenge with seeing that many is Murali gets bogged down, and he is just basically just working on the notes. And so I'll type little notes into there's a little note section in my EMR, if it's something different. So if it's the same, he knows it's the same. So trim nails and callus, the same thing. The challenge is when I'm seeing that many, I think we're losing money for in two specific aspects. One is that I was doing ABIs once a year, and there was no recall system because Murali is too far behind to remind me, and I don't look. And the second thing is I wasn't doing diabetic foot exams once again because I'm not like logging into every single patient to do that. And so I think to do it better, I may have to log in every single time, especially if Morale, while he's behind, trying to work on all these notes. Because I'm doing, the joke is it takes me less time to do the nails and calluses than it does for him to do the note. So I think if I didn't have a scribe, it would be a lot harder. So I think those are two drawbacks. And I guess, yeah, so not doing as many ABIs, not doing so many diabetic foot exams. And so I think, and also I'm not looking as much for other type of pathology when I'm that busy. So I just want to go through the kind of the pros and the cons of having the scribe. The benefit is certainly we're seeing more patients. Marjorie is getting very good at nails and helping me out. And so I think it was a good choice. And I guess the other drawback is we have a second provider, another doc in the office that day, and we only have 6 treatment rooms. So basically I'm commanding 4. He's only getting 2. So it kind of it potentially could slow him down. And then last week, for example, we just got I delayed. I tend to get a little distracted once in a while, as you can imagine by these podcasts, by doing things. And so I was like running 20 minutes late and just threw the whole day off. And there was like standing room only in the waiting room because you're pushing that many patients, and we don't have a ton of chairs in our waiting room. And so it was my fault when I got behind. Okay, let's go into the day. After that, the afternoon, the first patient was a 91-year-old male. He had a laceration on the anterior aspect of the leg. He was there for routine care, had a little laceration. Due to his swelling, it was kind of slow to heal and draining because of the venous stasis he has. So we did a Uniboot on him. A lot of the times in the past, I kind of still am needy. That's what my staff tell me, but I was more needy. And now I've realized it's just easier for me to do the Uniboot than have my staff, especially on Fridays or on the days when they're really busy. I do train my staff to do that, but it was just easier for me to do the Uniboot. Usually they do Uniboots for me. Next was a 59-year-old man. He had an orthotic adjustment. This was kind of a struggle because he was dissatisfied with the orthotics. He had more of like a cavus foot, so he needed more of like a lateral wedge on the device because he was leaning over too much. To the lateral aspect of his foot. The challenge is when he picked up his orthotic, he didn't make the 6-week follow-up, which I don't know if the staff are saying, so I have to check with my staff. I don't know if they're saying it's optional, but he didn't make it, and so he was upset he had to come back. But I just kind of explained, it's normal to have adjustments. I made the adjustment. I took pictures of his foot, and they're going to send a new device with some built up laterally, and he might be better off actually because when they send us a new pair, they don't take back the old pair, and I kind of jerry-rigged them with some lateral posting, and it felt better for him. So that was that patient. Next was a 78-year-old female, status post fracture of the second digit. She had routine care as well. So some of these routines, I don't know why they're showing up in my afternoon. They usually don't. I think it's because they had additional things. This was like status post fracture, and they're just showing up, and I'm doing the routine as well. I think sometimes my staff just don't know where to put them, especially when we have a virtual assistant scheduling. I think he just puts them wherever. 85-year-old female, new patient routine. So routines, new patients that are routine, I don't make them see me on Friday mornings. They can see me any day, but then I have them follow up on the Friday with me or one of the other doctors. Next was an 86-year-old male that had right ankle pain. Now this is interesting. This gentleman, he came in, he had right anterior ankle pain, and he saw my blog on ultrasound. And he came in, he said, I don't want x-ray. I think I had an x-ray before. I want an ultrasound because I saw your blog. So we sent out a blog. We sent out a newsletter once a week, and this newsletter was about ultrasounds, and that's why he came in for that. So we did an ultrasound. He had a little swelling around the tibant in that area and a fusion, and so I did a little cortisone injection, about 1 cc in there. Next was a 50-year-old female. She had left plantar fasciitis. She's number 5 out of 6 of Shockwave. Next was a 38-year-old female. She had a right foot equinus, and this one here, she had a lot of tightness that was causing some arch pain. So not really plantar fascial pain, but more on the arch, and I think it was all due to the equinus. So I did my dynamic demonstration that I told you about, where I take like this orb ball, ORB, and I rolled out the back of the calf, and then her arch pain kind of like went away magically. So She got night splint foam rolling or that orb ball, and then the morning stretch for her, and I'm going to see her back as needed. Next was a 85-year-old female that had left foot cellulitis. I gave her an antibiotic and put her in a surgical shoe. Next was a 35-year-old female. She had a left fifth met fracture. Now, this was an interesting one. She was in a surgical shoe, and it's been about 3 months. Actually, sorry, this is not a fifth met. This is a fifth digit. This is interesting because she had a fracture right at the DIPJ, and I looked at her previous x-rays, and it was originally a fused fifth toe at the DIPJ, which is pretty common, and she fractured right through it, and she was in a cam boot for 3 months, wasn't getting better. I'm sorry, she was in a surgical shoe, wasn't immobilizing it enough, so we put her in a cam boot. I'm going to try one more month, and if not, I told her about doing shockwave focused only or non-radial only. I'm starting to call things in the office either radial or non-radial. Just the reason for that is because we have two focus device, but they're not okay. We have the Storz device, which is really focused, and then the soft wave, which they call unfocused. So to not cause confusion, and they do very similar things. When we bill things and when we schedule things, we say we're going to do radial and non-radial versus focused or unfocused to not confuse things. And then the last one's a 49-year-old female for left fourth met base fracture. So this was a patient. She is a diabetic neuropathic fracture to fourth met base. She's a teacher. She's really not getting better with this, and she had been in a cam boot, and it's been about 4 months. And I'm concerned that these ones tend to delay, and due to her neuropathy, I'm concerned it could, turn into like a Charcot foot or something else if she just keeps walking on the darn thing. So I recommended number 1 out of 4 for focused only shockwave. So she did number 1 out of 4. I'm for the or non-radial. So for the non-radial one, I'm still doing 4 for the bone fractures, and I've started to offer patients if they want quicker treatments or to get not really better faster, but if they just want to get the treatments better, they can do treatments every 3 to 7 days. Majority do every 7 days for the finances, but some want to get things done faster, so they do it every 3 days. So this is something that I've been offering to patients more frequently, and some of them have been taking up on it only because they want to get things done faster. I think there is always a desire with patients for speed. And I think that's the benefit of shockwave to begin with, is they want a speedier recovery than they would normally just waiting. So I think a lot of things you can both speed it up with shockwave, but then offer them, hey, you can come in every 3 days. It might be logistically a little bit of a challenge for the practice if you're too busy with patients. Like certainly, as you can see, like shockwaves really glut my schedule, but there's not enough patients for me to offload the shockwave yet. I've thought about, like, if I took a day off, that would be nice. I could take a day off, have someone else do the shockwaves, and then I would be at about the same demand for patients. But right now there's not that much demand, because if I didn't have all these shockwaves in my schedule, it may be a lighter schedule for me. That's where I feel. That's kind of the fear of where I'm at right now. Okay. Once again, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I am putting together a challenge, a 6-month challenge for a few select podiatrists if you want to be part of it. It'll be helping to get your practice to the $1 million mark and beyond. If you've heard these things we've talked about here, I find them beneficial. We'll kind of work with them in a small group. We're going to be meeting once a month, and we're going to have like small group like conversations via WhatsApp. Okay? If you're interested, shoot me an email, don@podiatrypracticemastery.com, or you can go to that website and learn more about it. Okay, talk to you tomorrow.